to Behaviorally Speaking, Leadership for Changemakers, the podcast where we explore how lived experiences shape behavior. I'm your host, Dr. Esther Bubb, and this episode is brought to you by Esther C. Bubb ABA Services. As you know, we are several episodes in with powerful conversations from incredible leaders, and today we're doing something a little different. This episode is just you and me. A moment to pause, reflect, look at how far this journey has taken us, and reinforce the actions we've taken along the way. So let's dive in. Listeners, friends, fans, colleagues, family, we're celebrating growth. We're celebrating perseverance and the incredible community we've built together. Yes, today we're celebrating. And we're celebrating the lessons learned from every single episode so far. But the lesson that tops them all is this one. When leadership gives you leadermons, you make leadermonade. I learned that the hard way during what was supposed to be a monumental episode when I forgot to press save. Yes, me, Esther. The entire recording gone, vanished, no longer available. In that moment, I had to make a choice. Choose frustration or flexibility. Choose to mope around or choose to bounce back. So I turned the leadermon into leadermonade and published the episode as a blog instead. Because leadership isn't about perfection or avoiding mistakes, as I just shared. It's about adaptive responding during and after each moment. So today, friends, we are reflecting. We're reflecting on what we've learned, on how this podcast began, on growth, on perseverance, and pressing record even when it would have been easier not to. Because, my friends, leadership isn't just something we talk about here. Leadership is behavior, and reflection is a leadership behavior. This episode is a recap, a reflection, and honestly, a love letter to this journey. So as I sit here and I think back to preparing to publish the very first episode of Behaviorally Speaking, I remember feeling two emotions all at once: excitement and fear. I knew that I wanted a space where we could talk about leadership through a behavioral lens. Of course, I'm a behavior analyst. Not leadership as a title, not leadership as status, not leadership as performance, but leadership as behavior, as choice, as action, as the way we show up in service of others. But at the same time, I also wondered, will people listen? Do I have enough to say? Can I really do this? And of course, there were competing contingencies. So things like work, time, the technical learning curve. So like any good behavior analyst, I broke the behavior down. I created an environment rich with opportunities to succeed, small steps, simple tools, task analyses. Yes, task analyses. Very forgiving expectations. And of course, I had to sprinkle a few reinforcers throughout. So along the way, behavioral science has reminded me and continues to remind me that behavior doesn't wait for perfect conditions. Behavior is shaped through action. There was no perfect moment. There was just a decision to press record anyway. And now, 3.5 months later, we've published 10 episodes. They're not perfect, believe me. Not perfect at all. But they represent progress. And progress is data. And as behavior analysts, we live by the data. So along the way, friends and colleagues encouraged me. This matters. Keep going. I love what you're doing. And then there was me encouraging myself to keep going. So one of the decisions I made was to listen to a podcast series from its very last episode. Yes, I started at the very last episode and went all the way back to the very first episode every day for 6 weeks. And it reminded me that where a podcast ends, or where a podcast is, or where a goal begins, where a goal ends, or where a goal is not where it starts. It's not where it started. And in listening to the podcast series, I recognized that the early episodes weren't perfect. But by the last one, or the most recent episode, the growth was undeniable. Better design, better sound, better quality, better overall. And then when I listen back to earlier episodes of this podcast, I hear the same thing: growth, more confidence, more clarity, more ease in conversation. And this podcast has allowed me to practice leadership and share my incremental growth with you publicly through weekly publications. And if this podcast inspires even one person to pursue a goal they've been postponing, that matters to me. That makes a difference. Because when one person grows, the ripple effect extends far beyond what we can humanly see. So if you're waiting for the perfect moment, just ask yourself, what is perfection? And who defines it? And what does perfection mean to you anyway? My suggestion? Trade perfection for progress. Take action, record data, adjust along the way. Just start. Start even though imperfectly, but just start. Be brave. Focus on courage over perfection. Accept feedback. Grow in public. But most of all, stay true to what matters to you and stay true to yourself and who you are. It's much easier to be you than someone else. And at the end of the day, just begin. But I've understood, and I recognize even more today from doing this podcast, that starting something new is ultimately an exercise in humility. It'll keep you humble. Even if you don't want to be humble, it'll make you humble. And while hosting conversations about leadership, I've also been practicing leadership myself. So along the way, I've noticed more confidence behind the mic, more fluency in my interviewing style, more vulnerability. And might I add that after concluding one episode, not yet published, the guest asked me, so what are you learning along the way? Right? Her point was, you're doing these episodes and you're asking all these questions and you're gaining all this insight, but what are you learning? I'm curious, right? She was just curious. She wanted to know. And my response was vulnerability. I said to her, the Esther years ago really built on perfection, showing the best self, not making mistakes public. But the podcast experience forces me, in a good way, to be vulnerable, to not cover up mistakes, because you're talking live, you're recording live. And so you make a mistake, you make a fumble, you pick it up, you pick up the ball, you keep going, right? You keep running, you keep moving forward. So just to share that, in addition to learning lots of things and growing in so many ways, vulnerability is one of them. And it's one that I truly appreciate, because the more you can be vulnerable, the more you can be real, the more you can be honest, candid, and open, the more your message is believable. And for me, it's even more than believability. I want my message, I want each episode, I want each conversation to be able to impact others. That's all I want at the end of the day, to be able to make a difference. And like I said earlier, even if it's just in one life, that ripple effect, that multiplier effect is going to spread across more people that I can't even imagine. Along the way, I've also been able to shift, as I just said, from perfection toward growth, more relaxed, natural conversations, and stronger grounding in my own leadership voice. So each episode, friends, has taught me something, not just about my guests, but also about myself. And the biggest lesson is that leadership grows the same way all human behavior grows, through practice, through reinforcement, and perhaps most importantly, through environments that set you up for success. Because amidst all of the practice and all of the reinforcement, if that environment is not setting you up for success and setting you up for success that you can continue to sustain, then at the end of the day, we have to ask that question. Is it working? What can we do differently and what do we need to change? The environment is critically important. So in the beginning, let me just share with you, which if you know me, you can perhaps imagine or guess, I prepared heavily. I wanted every question to be perfect. And we also just talked about, that I'm able to shift from perfection toward growth. I wanted to sound polished. I wanted to prove something. But over time, as I've continued interacting with each and every guest, something shifted. That started to change. I realized the best moments weren't when I spoke the most or when I was perfect or trying to be polished. They were just when I listened the most and when I just became me and just enjoyed the moment for what the moment was, listened, understood, asked questions, reflected. And also along the way, I've learned, as you'll hear me say over and over and over, listening is intervention. It's been a theme that has been present in every single episode so far. Listening is not only intervention, but it's also data collection. But it's also, at the end of the day, respect. Giving respect to the person who is having a conversation with you. Some of the most meaningful moments in this podcast happen in silence. And for me, that was growth, because it's not all about the noise. It's about finding moments to be silent, finding moments to listen, finding moments to hear, finding moments to learn, finding moments to understand. So friends, across these first 10 episodes with Tyria Graves, Dr. Natalie Hess, Tracy Wise, Michaela McKinney, Evangelist Dr. Monet Leggett, Dr. Tessa Barry, Dr. Donald Thomas, Jenny Prochorenko-Stadelberger, Attorney Gabrielle Sereni, and Dr. Jim Connell, consistent themes emerge. Themes like different voices, different journeys, but shared truths. So with all of the lessons and all of the themes that emerged, allow me to share these with you. Lesson 1, leadership is what you do. It's behavior. It isn't a title, it's a verb. It's the actions we take, the choices we make, and the way we show up for others. Lesson number 2, leadership. As you'll continue to hear me say, leadership is listening. Not listening to respond, but listening to hear, listening to understand. Leadership requires restraint, observing before correcting, understanding before evaluating. And listening isn't soft. It really is strategic, it's behavioral, and it's so powerful. Lesson number 3, leadership is opportunity. Leaders create opportunity and they expand choice. If we think about it, friends, this podcast itself has become an opportunity creating space for guests, for listeners, for emerging leaders, for people who are doubting themselves. Leaders aren't just decision makers. Leaders are architects of opportunity. And leadership isn't about narrowing paths. It's about widening them and creating multiple opportunities for those that we lead. Lesson number 4. Leadership is compassionate feedback. And I'm very big on compassion. I'm very big on compassionate care. Compassionate feedback, performance feedback is one of the most powerful tools in our leadership toolbox. But feedback must align with clear goals. That means you must have pre-established clear goals from the onset of the leadership relationship. And if you haven't established goals, take a step back. It's okay. Create those goals. Make sure they're clear to you and clear to those you lead. Then provide feedback, because without feedback, people drift. But with feedback, they recalibrate. And When delivered well, feedback is compassion in action. It says, I see you. I hear you. I believe you. I believe in you. I believe in your growth. So let's align our actions with our aspirations, and let's support those we lead with aligning their actions with their aspirations. And friends, even as a whole, I've had to give myself feedback, even as a leader on a daily basis, as a supervisor, as a mentor, as a colleague, I have to give myself feedback. So along the way, I continue to remind myself, slow down, take a break, Esther, slow down, pause, trust the conversation, trust the process, release perfection, acknowledge and be open to vulnerability and making mistakes. Because at the end of the day, we have to feed into ourselves. We have to pour into our cup. And one of the ways we can do that quite instrumentally is by giving ourselves feedback and by self-reflecting. Lesson number 5. It's not about me, it's about us. Leadership is not about being the center of attention. And that's never my goal, never my focus. If you know me, you know that. It's about lifting others. That's always what I'm about. How can I help others be their best selves? How can I help others move from where they are to where they could be? How can I help others recognize talents that they may not yet see that they have? It's all about lifting and uplifting others for me. This podcast works because guests said yes, because colleagues shared episodes, because friends encourage me, because listeners press play. It's not about me, it's about us. We've been doing this together. Every message, every share, every word of encouragement functioned as reinforcement. And friends, yes, reinforcement builds momentum. It truly does. So this podcast, this thing we're doing here is not a solo act, not in the least. It's a very collective journey, and I'm deeply grateful to each member of Bubb Fam who has made these 10 episodes possible. And just to share this with you, as with any other human, there were moments I wanted to stop, moments I wanted to give up, moments I said, what am I doing? It's taking so much time, including this recap episode. Weeks when recording felt heavy and like so much work. Busy schedules, fatigue, self-doubt, canceled recordings, moments when I questioned whether my voice even mattered. And every time something reinforced me, because at the end of the day, no matter how many episodes eventually get published, this is out there and anybody can hear this on any day, on any time, at any given moment. And this message might reach someone who just needs to hear it in the moment that they're hearing it. And that, my friends, is good enough for me. Every time I publish an episode, every time I record an episode, every time I prepare for an episode, I'm reinforced by a kind message, a guest who believes in the mission and the vision, and a reminder of why this podcast exists. A leadership, friends, for change makers requires persistence. The world of applied behavior analysis, behavioral momentum, and in just everyday living, right? Behavioral momentum builds us when we keep responding in the same direction, even when reinforcement is delayed. So you won't always see the downloads immediately. I won't always hear the impact right away. We won't always feel confident in every single moment, but shaping and growing and progress requires repetition, requires consistency, requires determination, requires perseverance, requires hanging in there, requires never giving up. So I pressed record anyway. And friends, if you're building something, a dream, a project, a change in your life, keep shaping it. Think it, and as you think it, write it. As you write it, say it. As you say it, do it. As you do it, share it. And press record anyway on whatever it is you're building in your life. Press play, press start, press go, press begin. Just do it. And I also really want to acknowledge my guests for sharing their wisdom. After every single conversation, friends, I've learned so much. During the conversation, I learned so much. I listen to them as they speak, as they respond, as they answer, as they share their experiences, as they share something that's new to me, that perhaps has been around for a while, but new to me because, as anyone else, I don't know everything. So it's been so encouraging, so uplifting, so motivating. So I'm really, really thankful to my guests for joining me on this journey and sharing their wisdom. I'm also very thankful to my friends for cheering me on. I'm extremely grateful to all of my listeners for showing up week after week, listening to the episodes, reading the accompanying blogs. And honestly, I'm just grateful to myself, Esther. I'm grateful to myself for choosing courage over comfort. Because as I said, there are some days when I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can continue this. It's a lot. But I keep being brave. I keep being courageous. I keep returning because in my head, I know someone needs to hear this message. Because embedded in each episode, there are leadership nuggets, but at the end of the day, there are so many motivational and inspiring nuggets in each episode that is very important to me. And I'm willing to continue because even if, like I said, I make a difference in the life of one person, that's making a difference in the life of many. So thank you, Bubb fam. You are definitely part of the story. So what's next, guys? What's next, friends? Moving forward, I'm excited to continue centering leadership as behavior, to amplify voices grounded in evidence and compassion, to explore deeper conversations about systems, about change, about growth, to model bravery and imperfection in real time, and to engage with you in new and meaningful ways that are memorable. There is so much more to explore, friends, and I'm so grateful to grow alongside each and every one of you. If there's one takeaway from today, it's this. It's leadership is behavior. It's that every one of us has the opportunity to lead, has the opportunity to lead today in this moment. If something is calling you, take the smallest possible step. Don't wait for perfection. Don't wait for certainty. Don't wait for permission. Just start, and believe you me, reinforcement will follow. Thank you for listening to Behaviorally Speaking Leadership for Changemakers. As we close, I want to leave you with this reflection. Leadership lives in daily behavior, in how we listen, how we respond, and how we create spaces for others to grow. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for walking this journey with me. And remember, when leadership gives you leadermons, make leadermonade. If this episode resonated, share it with someone. For training, coaching, and behavior-based leadership support, visit EstherCBubABServices.com. Until next time, lead with humanity and purpose, practice with compassion and intention, and create meaningful, lasting change. And remember, check out the companion blog at EstherCBubABServices.com/blog. I'll see you in the next episode. This is Dr. Bubb. Thank you for listening.